Life. With an estimated 3.8 billion years of existence and evolution on Earth, it's an odd thing indeed. So how did we get here? And what would the Earth's 4.5 billion year timeline look like compressed into a normal day of 24 hours? The story begins early in the morning, around 4 a.m., with the rise of the first simple, single-celled organisms. However, these organisms are destined to spend quite some time alone. At 1 p.m., a simple cell engulfs another, creating a symbiotic relationship and the first eukaryotic cells, or cells with internal organs. At 6:30 p.m., these cells begin to form colonies, and thus the first multicellular life develops. But it isn't until 8:30 p.m. that sea plants appear, and 20 minutes later we suddenly see animal life erupt in an explosion of inventiveness. Jellyfish, the first true vertebrates, trilobites. Incredible diversification begins to take place, and just before 10 p.m., plants begin to appear on land, followed by land mammals. By 1024, the Earth is covered in carboniferous forests, and the first winged insects appear. Many reptiles dominate the land with less than an hour left, but a mass extinction event allows dinosaurs to storm the scene and remain until 11:41 p.m. when they too suddenly vanish. And so begins the age of mammals. In the last few minutes, apes split from the old world monkeys, and with only 1 minute and 17 seconds left before midnight, humans emerge. All of the recorded human history fits within a few seconds, an individual life lasting barely an instant. All a culmination of 3.8 billion years of life.
So originally I thought that the Big Bang and evolution were just scientific processes and scientific theories that had no way, shape, or form were related to religion. But after, for example, with the Big Bang, after reading Brown and him talking about the biotic principle and how the Big Bang was set up perfectly to where the Earth was the right distance away from the sun, and there was the right amount of gravitational force or magnetic force in the Earth to allow life to exist on the Earth, makes me think that there has to be some type of higher order to this process. It couldn't have just magically happened. In regards to the Big Bang, that's about the extent of my view on the Big Bang. I never really had much of a knowledge base to begin with. So that helps me to, Brown helped me to connect those two concepts together. Evolution was probably where I had my most growth. Now I see that evolution was a way for God to allow creation to develop creation rather than God having to constantly reside over life and having to tinker with each little thing. It allows for creation to develop on its own, to make its own mistakes, and to get to where God wants creation to be at a natural pace rather than at the pace that God wants. That shows the way in which God acts, how he is a very patient creator, and he is seen as a patient parent. And that Edwards would call that non-interventionism. And that's how I see evolution and natural selection coming into play with religion.
I think typically for most conservative Christian religions, they really have struggled with the issue of evolution, and I'm pretty sure a lot of my family, like extended family, would really struggle with that issue. But I, on the other hand, don't, considering I practice a nature-based religion that worships nature and all of its beauty. I see evolution as being the way in which my higher powers were able to create all life in this world so that it could evolve on its own without them having to interfere with it and sort of manipulate it to change it to make it stand. It just kind of evolves on its own. And in terms of Big Bang Theory, I'm not really sure where I stand on that. I do think that our world started as nothing and then somehow life formed, but whether that's Big Bang or not, I'm not really sure.
Bill Nye the Science Guy. Bill Nye the Science Guy. Bill Nye the Science Guy.
I always believed that someone who had basic knowledge of the natural sciences would interpret the Bible analytically and someone who doesn't. When we were reading the 7 pillars of creation, I was able to see parallels between science and religion that I had never thought about before. For example, chaos. I always just thought of chaos as chaos. Now I see it sets the precondition for order.
Well, with basic knowledge of natural sciences, it becomes difficult to read it literally. So I think when you start to read the Bible with that knowledge in mind, it makes you sort of step back from it almost, and you examine it, and not necessarily such a literal light. It kind of becomes sort of metaphorical. You can it's just not so literal as it has been interpreted in the past. And I think for me, I used to take that as, well, it's a pointless book. It's just a bunch of metaphors, nothing in it's literal, nothing in it's real. I can disprove everything in it, so I don't need it. It's cool, whatever, but I don't need it. But I think that's kind of I don't know, it was too quick to dismiss. And even if you can't take it literally, there are things to be taken from it. It's, like a look into a different culture, a different viewpoint. It can just be sort of like morally guiding in instances. So it's not a pointless relic. Like, it can be, you can use your knowledge of the natural sciences today, apply that, look at it for what it is, take the lesson from it, and make it relevant again for today.
What isn't an act of God? No, if you believe in God, that's sort of a definition of him, isn't it? That he does everything. Isn't that right? Everything is an act of him. He's all-powerful, he's everywhere at once. He invented everything. There was nothing before him. He invented time, everything. He's across it all, okay? He doesn't miss a trick, and he's not absent-minded. A volcano going off isn't like him going, I left the oven on. It's...
Nothing you could do, 'cause I'm stuck like glue to my God. My God, my God. I'm sticking to my God like a stamp to a...
Okay. So, I believe in more than one God. I believe in one male and one female God. And the reason I believe this way is because I practice a pagan religion, mostly, completely, almost all Wiccan religion, along with a little bit of other metaphysical beliefs and practices thrown in. And so I believe that my God and Goddess created this world together, and that they created not just the living things in it, but also the non-living components of this world. And I believe that they have to work through the laws of nature, which they created, in order to have things achieved and to work. They can't go against the laws of nature or intervene in any way, but that they're always present in this world.
I believe that God acts in ways that are not as direct as the Bible portrays them. I believe that after reading Finding Darwin's God, that Miller established that there is room for God in science, and at the quantum level, the quantum indeterminacy, there is no way we can ever predict, the outcome of that. And I feel like that is where God could exist, and how he could effectively influence a lot of things in that way, such as creation.
So, well, as I am a Wiccan, I believe that every living thing on this planet has a soul or a spirit, and therefore deserves our respect and care. And so I believe that instead of having dominance over the rest of nature, like some believe, humans actually have the job of trying to preserve creation that's here on this world, because most of the time we destroy it. But it's our job to actually help take care of it and make sure that it's preserved. And I also believe that the spirits of animals aren't necessarily animal spirits on their own. I believe in reincarnation, therefore I believe like when someone dies, like their physical body dies, their spirit reincarnates into another living thing, whether that thing is a plant, an animal, or a human. Therefore, the dog that I have as a pet could actually be some spirit from somebody else, like somebody's grandmother's spirit or something.
First of all, humanity could look at nature in one of two ways, or a variation of one of two ways. They can either look at it as something we should coexist with because we have similar origins compared with it, or nature is something that is here for our benefit and no one else's. We use it and we abuse it and we move on. First of all, I believe that the rest of nature can live on without us. Humanity exists within every other species niche rather than us having our own niche. And so if we were to die off, the rest of nature would go on just fine and probably even better. So that is why I think that we should coexist with it on a more practical level. But on a scientific and biblical level, in the Bible, creation and humanity all come from the same origin of chaos. God made the world around us off of the same chaos as we were made. And similarly, we share the same genetic makeup, the same genetic building blocks as the rest of life. And that is the reason why we should look at the rest of nature and feel that we should coexist with it rather than to use and abuse it, because they are our kin and not just a resource for us to go through and for our benefit.
I believe that science helps religion and religion helps science.
Right.
They have to kind of mingle and intertwine with each other in their existence to help us understand why we're here.
Yeah.
I would categorize myself as a Christian, but I still believe in evolution. I still definitely feel that science is important, and my religion is important too, but I do try to keep them separate.
I am a Christian, and I'm a Christian because whenever you're doing physics and particle physics, there's equations, and you can find any property of any particle except for the position of where the particle is. You can only find a probability. You can never find an exact place of where that position is. So in my limited education on physics up to this point, I have learned that there are some things that science cannot solve. And in that, it restores my faith that science is not everything.
It's peanut butter jelly time. Peanut butter jelly time. Peanut butter jelly time.